Now, the question of the day, which is a good one, is if I were fortunate enough to be the new director of the company, what changes would I make? Well, first off, I wouldn't make any changes per se. I know that the company is a family. It was in my day, and I'm sure it is today, and I have a feeling that it's even more bonded because of all the recent troubles that have happened to it. And I was very impressed with Teresa Reichling's speech. I didn't see it, but I read it. And when you're put under a lot of pressure, people have a tendency to circle the wagons, so which is normal and healthy. So the question kind of threw me because I wouldn't make any changes per se. So what I would do, I'm a teacher really, so what I would do is I would look at the Balanchine repertoire, which is my area of expertise. I would bring in McBride, Villella, and especially Allegra Kent and Kay Mazo and Suzanne Farrell. They should all be brought in ASAP to just go over things, try to fix a few things that have been changed or lost. For the senior ballerinas in the company, the ones that have been doing the roles for a long time, I probably wouldn't say anything unless they asked my advice or Allegra's advice or Kay or whoever the coach would be. But these dancers, have carved their careers and they're good dancers, and that's that. I would concentrate more on the younger, up-and-coming dancers to make sure that things got back a little bit closer to how Balanchine wanted. But Mr. B was very flexible, as we all know, so, no terrible harm has been done, really. I would look at bringing some Balanchine ballets back that maybe have been gone for a while. I'd have to go over all that. I would rely and hope to work, very closely with the existing artistic staff, with the 4 people, Stafford, etc., that are in there now. They know the company. It's their family. I don't want to be an interloper. I just want to be a help, basically. And in class, I would be able to definitely clean up some Balanchine things that have been missing, which I think is good, because if they're doing Balanchine's repertory, they really need to do it in Balanchine style, and you can't do that unless you take the class. And I'm a teacher, so I would not be giving just a warm-up every day. I would be tweaking things and bringing back, Balanchine's corrections. I have a really good, we have a siren. I live near a fire station, that's why. Sounds like New York, doesn't it? It's like the streets of New York. But I would basically, I have a great memory, and people have commented on that, so I would bring back as much as I could remember, and I remember most everything, of Balanchine corrections and his combinations even, etc. So I would also rely a lot on Justin Peck and also Damien Wetzel to advise me on the new choreographers that are out there that I don't know, some of the more contemporary people that I'm not that familiar with. I definitely would want to keep that side of the company going, which is what they're doing, bringing in the new, younger, innovative, contemporary choreographers, and that's fine. And I would be relying on Justin and others that are there to advise me on all that. I'd like to really get involved more with the school. You have to remember that Balanchine brought in teachers. He had Russian teachers, he had Danish teachers, Stanley Williams. He brought in a French teacher for the summers. He brought in Irina Kosmovska from Los Angeles every summer for 6 weeks. And so you don't want the teaching at the school to become too insular, in the sense that it's only dancers from the New York City Ballet that go in to teach at the school. And I'll tell you why, because there's been, 34 years since Balanchine died, so most of the people dancing, all the people dancing really, never actually worked with Balanchine, so it makes kind of no sense to have a kind of a faux Balanchine technique being fostered on the students. Now, of course, the exceptions are Suki Shore and Kay Mazo and Susie Pillare, that's fine, but I'm talking about this other thing of bringing in, dancers that have just retired from the New York City Ballet. They may be fine, but I'd really want to look at that carefully, because you don't want bad Balanchine mannerisms being taught. That really tarnishes the reputation. And I think that the dancers in the company, the audiences, the board, everybody deserves the very best Balanchine that they can get. So therefore, whoever the new director may be, it's really dangerous. I mean, to bring in somebody that didn't work with him personally very well. I mean, and then still call yourself a Balanchine company. That's just my opinion. So I think that answers the question. What would I change in the company? Everything and nothing. How's that? I have, certain things with lighting I would like to fix, certain things with decor I would like to fix. Balanchine sat with me and lit my 8 ballets. I did 8 ballets for the company. And he sat with me for every ballet and lit them. And he told me what looked good on the skin, what looked good made the girls look more beautiful, what was distracting, and he was right. He was always right. I mean, he'd been around longer than any of us, so he knew exactly what would make the company look like, at least in his works. Now, again, for the other choreographers, I have nothing to say about that. But as far as the Balanchine ballets, there used to be this beautiful blue haze. Even in all the ballets, even Agon, Four Temperaments, there was this kind of soft light. It was bright, but it was soft, and it wasn't glaring, and it wasn't harsh. And it's difficult to get. But I light all the ballets when I stage ballets in Europe, elsewhere, and I always try to get the same Balanchine look that he had when he lit my ballets. So there are little things like that I would fix. I would really look forward to coaching and teaching the younger dancers. And again, bringing in ballerinas that he adored, like Suzanne and Allegra and Kay, and letting them get in there and coach. And nobody wants a clone. Nobody wants anybody to dance exactly like they did. That's ridiculous. But it seems to me a bit self-defeating. And one last thing, it was very heartening to hear or to read some comments that were made by some of the ballerinas when they worked with Patty McBride recently on Rubies and some other ballets, because they acknowledged that the timing was different, the musicality was different, the counts were different, and it's almost like they had to relearn the entire ballet, which can be very disconcerting. So now that there's an opportunity, a new beginning, as it were, we can get all that back. We can get all that timing, musicality, proper placement of the dancers on stage. I mean, in the ballets I've danced there, when I went to see the company a lot in 2011, I noticed lots of changes. And I asked some of the dancers that I knew, who changed this? Did Mr. B change it? Because he would change things, And they told me no, it happened after his death. And that bothered me, because that doesn't seem to be necessary. You're not going to improve on Balanchine. You're not going to, while you're doing his ballets, you're not going to make them better if you change things. They should be, the dancers, by being living, breathing artists, will change things automatically. Every dancer will bring their own personality and their own style. That's fine. And he was very open to that, and I'm very open to that. I mean, that's how the ballet lives and breathes and continues. And you can take an old ballet and it'll look brand new depending on the dancers. And I just read something from Billy Forsythe, of all people, that said he didn't like the tinkering around with Swan Lakes and Giselles. He said, because those are classics, and when you get a different dancer doing them, they're fresh already. But if you tinker around with them too much and you change them, you don't really know what the ballet is anymore. So that's how I feel about Balanchine, is that we know what the ballets are supposed to look like. There's a number of ballet masters that he personally supervised out there, I'm one of them. The difference with me and the others is that I teach class everywhere I go, and I've had a history of directing a company, etc., so all that. But it just seems crazy not to take advantage of who's left of us to really get the company back closer to the Balanchine ideal. And then as far as the new choreographers, Justin keep choreographing, and you bring in Chris Wheeldon, and you bring in Rodmansky, and you bring in whomever, that's fine. And that's also something Balanchine did himself. And so the other thing, while I've got you, is that I was asked, would I work with a deputy director or with an assistant? Absolutely. And I actually gave the names of 2 girls, women. One is still dancing in the company, and another one just retired, that I respect and admire very much. that both came into the company after Balanchine's death, and they were the muses and are the muses of all the current crop of new choreographers. And I would look to them to come in right from the beginning with me, so that when my time is up, and these girls are much younger than I am, so when my time is up, one of them, or both of them, but they could take over, but it would be a smoother transition. There would be a direct link, meaning from Balanchine to me, to the dancers in the company. But not only just me. I would bring in, of course, as I've said, Allegra Kent, Suzanne Farrell, Jacques d'Amboise, Valella, Patricia McBride, Mimi Paul, Conrad Ludlow, all of the ones that really worked with Balanchine closely that are still around. I would have them come in to advise the younger dancers, coach them, and mine any gems of wisdom that they have, because that's the way that ballets have been traditionally passed on. So I would be the go-between, in a way, with these people and the dancers. So it would be from Balanchine to me and these dancers that worked with him directly, unlike your previous director that didn't do that, to the dancers in the company. I think that's the safest and the smartest way to go to preserve the legacy that is the crown jewel of the New York City Ballet. Of course, I'm biased. That's just my personal opinion, but I think it works. And again, you have all these new great choreographers that would be creating new works, but at least you would be preserving the Balanchine legacy in the best possible way. That's my opinion. Thank you very much. Bye.